Hey guys!
And gals!
Today we will have a look at a few tools we can use in VCV Rack to mix our patches. And the idea for this video came from my patrons, so thank you patrons for the idea and also for the support. And already here I have a small patch going on, and there's a link in the description to this patch, so feel free to pause the video and download it so we can look at everything together. What I have here, this is how the patch will sound like. I have here some drums, so I have here a kick coming from tremor, being sequenced by the gate sequencer, the amazing gate sequencer from Impromptu. I have here hi-hats also from tremor. And a snare, and another snare, which is going through corner loop 2, and it has a feedback loop with the bandpass tangents. I have here a bass, which is the Voldemar oscillator from Lindenberg, which is amazing. And what I've done here, I sent the clock. First of all, I'm sending some noise to the cutoff point of the filter, and I'm mixing this noise with an envelope, which is receiving a trigger from a divided clock. And then to this bass, I have also I'm sending this bass to another filter, this time high pass filter, and this is going through some delay. Just to add some more movement. Then we have the FM operators. They are being triggered by the burst module, and they are going through the dual delay, which is being its time is being modulated with sample and hold, and they are also receiving pitch information from sample and hold. And we have here this glitchy sound. Oh yeah. So I'm sending a trigger through a logic gate to the bandpass input of tangents, and I'm pinging this filter, so the resonance is just before the filter is self-oscillating. And this is going to a delay module, and I'm modulating again the delay time. So again, this is how it will sound like. Very nice. Now the main tool we will use is this beautiful mixer. Let's just take the volumes a bit down. This beautiful mixer from Meld. So this will be the main tool we will use for this mixing video. And the first step of mixing starts way before the actual mixing process, and it's actually already the composition process by itself, and choosing or synthesizing, in our case, the right sounds for what you want to achieve, and not counting. And this is important, do not count on the mixing process to fix all sorts of issues you might have. Another thing that can be useful is having an organized patch, so you know where is what, and your channels are named or tagged in a way you can understand which voice is on which channel. So also here I have it ready. I have here the names of the different voices in the mixer. There's also a larger version of this mixer, of course, you can use with 16 stereo channels. And I also have everything tagged. So I have here the drums. I am using the text module from Submarine. So I have here the drums, I know those are the drums. Here I have the FM operators, here I have the bass delay, the glitchy thingy. And what I also do usually, I also color code my patches. So audio is always red, triggers, gates, clocks are always blue, pitch information is always yellow, and modulation is always, you can see it here, always green. That way I know what is what in my patch, and what is going where, and who is modulating whom. Okay, so also again, very important, or not very important, but it can help you in the mixing process to have an organized patch. And another thing is that, in my opinion at least, the mixing process is an integral part of the creative process and the composition. So again, I don't recommend leaving things for later, but rather mixing while composing and building the sounds as you go. But as you could see before, and you can see this also now, for example, I already have a patch built. So the next step, we have a patch, we have everything going. The next step will be gain staging. Now the last thing we want is that our voices would clip and we will get those unpleasant artifacts in the sound. And for this we have to make sure that the levels are not too hot, not too high. And I like to start, that's my opinion, I like to start with that everything hits at about -6 dB. And already you can see here on the mixer I have the dim function on. Let me just take the levels up. I have the dim function on, and it will stay on until we take everything down, so we will not clip. It will reduce the master level. In my case it's by -12 dB. Now what we can do with this mixer, a really nice feature of this mixer is that it has for each channel an input gain control in the right click menu. You can see it here, gain adjust, so we can adjust the input gain for each of the voices on their way in, so before they hit everything else. So let's adjust the gain for each channel so it will peak at around -6 dB. So here for example the kick is hitting +3, let's take it down. That it hits around -6, somewhere here. The same for the hats. And then so on. Okay, so now we have this, and this is a good starting point, and later we can change the levels, and we know that we have enough headroom. Look at this here, we have enough space, enough headroom to make more level changes later on. So we can turn now the dim off and the levels will go back up. But we have still enough headroom. Look, 0 is here. At 0 it will clip, and we have still enough headroom to work with, which is quite cool. So now let's change the levels a bit, bring forward what we want to hear more, bring backward or to the background what we want to hear less. And again, this is just a starting point. Later we can make more changes. So let's for example, let's take the kick a bit up, the head's a bit down, the second snare also a bit down. Very nice. So again, we started that all the voices were peaking at -6, and now we can start making changes, and we know that we have enough headroom. And then later on, as we make more changes, we can change again the levels. Now another really nice feature this mixer has, and this is already the next step, it has built-in high and low pass filters, again in the right click menu. So we can take some of the low frequencies, for example, out from the voices that we don't want them to have low frequencies, that they don't need to have low frequencies also. But for this, first of all, let's save this state of the mixer before we make the changes with 8-phase. So I will go to write mode and I will save the first slot. This will be what we have now here. And now we can make the changes and save this to the second slot and make an A-B comparison. So here I have an analyzer, and we can start sending the channels. Let's skip the kick for now. Let's go with the hi-hat. So this will be the hi-hat. Let's take the low frequencies out. Let's just see if I can change the amplitude. Very nice. So now let's take the low frequencies out. We don't need them, I don't want them at least in the hi-hat, so I just right click and I have a high pass filter or a low cut, it's the same thing. And I will just go to about, you can see how it changes here also on the spectrum, to about 400 Hz, even 500 maybe. For the snare, let's go. Let's just change this also on the analyzer. This is the snare now. Let's go to about, let's say 100 or maybe less, maybe around 80. The second snare, I also want to be more in the high frequencies, so let's go to about 300. I don't want the low frequencies there. To the bass, we have two bass sounds here. One is the bass, normal bass, and one is the bass delay, which is being high passed, so it will contribute the high frequencies. So let's take the high frequencies a bit out from the bass sound. So I have here a low pass filter or a high cut. So let's go to about, let's say 3000 or 3K. And now from the bass delay I can take again the low frequencies out. Let's go to about 600 even. This will be how it looks like. Let's take this a bit more even, maybe around 800. So they are not interrupting each other because it's the same sound delayed, but I don't want the low frequencies on the delayed sound. Let's go now to the FM operator. Again, take the lows a bit down, let's say about 200 Hertz. And the glitch even more, let's go to about 600. And this will create more space, less energy in the low frequencies that we don't need, because we have the bass and we have the kick. They are taking care of the low frequencies. We don't need the low frequencies in the other voices, not so much. So it's better to take them out. Very nice. So now let's save this. Let's just take this out. We don't need the analyzer anymore. Let's save this to another slot on 8-phase. And now we can make an A-B comparison. So you can see when I'm changing. The first one will be before the changes with the high pass or low pass filters, and the second one will be after. So let's have a listen to what change did they do. Very nice, so you can hear it's a bit more open. It's just subtle movements, subtle changes, but all in all we will make more subtle changes later, and together it will be a one big change. So there is just a bit more space. You can see this also on the master fader. I will do this again. Look at the master fader, that we have even a bit more headroom because we took out some energy. Very nice. So this was another step. Now the next step will be more EQing, more sculpturing of the sounds. And for this we have a new module we can use, again for MindMeld, the really beautiful, amazing module, the EQ Master, which will look like this. Already you can see it looks beautiful, and with this we can EQ the individual voices, and it's perfect for also as a creative tool, not just for mixing and EQing, but for now in this video we'll concentrate on the mixing aspect. So let's connect it to the mixer. We have here the poly output 1 to 8 because we have just 1 to 8 channels. This will go to the poly input on the mixer, and then the poly output on the mixer will go to the poly input of the EQ, and already we can see we have movement, we have something going on here. Now let's right click the EQ master and we can fetch track labels from mixer. We have our mixer here, and now the names of the channels will also appear here, you can see. So again, this is why it's also important to name your channels, your voices, and with this mixer it's really easy, super important. Now, before we start using the EQ, a really nice trick is to mix while listening in mono, so you know that the voices are working together and not against each other. And in this mixer we have here a mono button, so we can just click the button and all the mix is being summed into mono. And And again, now we can see, we can really listen to what's going on with the different frequencies and make the right adjustments. And another tip, when you're mixing, when you're changing the EQ, don't work in solo, don't solo the different voices and EQ them separately. Work always when all the voices are active. Again, you should see that the voices, or hear that the voices are working together, and if you are soloing the different voices, they might sound nice or good or fit alone when soloed, but when listening to everything together they will not work. So don't mix in solo, change the frequencies, maybe solo the voice just to see that you are not completely destroying it, but most of the time mix when all the voices or the main voices or the voices that are important to you are on, and you can see that they are working together, all different voices. So let's start with EQing, and let's start with the hats, for example. So here we can change the different tracks, and again we have the names. We can also freeze the analyzer, which is nice. We can hide or show the bands, really lots of features. We have 4 bands that we can use. So let's start with the hi-hat. Now the hi-hat, I want to be more in the high frequencies, so let's take, and again just subtle movements, no, nothing too big, just a bit. And let's take some of the low frequencies out. So what I will do, I will create a nice small bell, and I will sweep. Here, for example, there is a frequency that I don't like so much. It's not that I don't like it, but I think it will cause problems later on. So I just take this frequency and a bit of the surroundings also. But again, just a bit. You can see I'm going like 1.5, 2 dB. And let's create another emphasis also here in this region. About 1.5K. Again, just a bit, 2.5 dB. Very nice. Now there are 2 schools to this EQing thing. You can be the subtractive EQ person or the additive EQ, so you can add more energy or amplify the energies or the frequencies, or you can take them out. I use both. I know most of the times people say that subtractive EQing is better, but I use both. Okay, so this was the hats. Let's move on to the snare. And let's see again, let's sweep. Oh yeah. Already I think I found the frequency I like. So just a bit, again, no big movements here. Let's go a bit. This will be more of the snappiness of the sound. Maybe here something, just a bit. And again, let's take the low frequencies a bit down. I can choose a high pass or low cut, or I can change this to a bell. And if you can see on the kick, if I freeze the EQ, you can see that the kick is peaking at around 100 Hertz. So if I go to the snare, and here also you can see which channels have the, let me just zoom in a bit maybe, have the EQ active. So this is the snare. So at around 100 I will take it down a bit, maybe like 3 dB, just so it's not interrupting our kick. Then the second snare, again we took the lows a bit out, so let's take the highs a bit. Let's change this again to a bell. Let's see. Yeah, this is the region, very nice. And again take the, just in case, so it's not interrupting anything, maybe make this even larger. Take some of the low frequencies a bit more out, and then let's go to the bass. Now at the bass, at this bass, I will take again the 100, just a bit, again with the bell curve shape, just a dB and a half. And let's see what happens here in this region. Maybe there is something we like. Maybe this click. Just a bit, so it's not too muddy, maybe a dB. And again, with the next track, the bass delay, we add the high frequencies. So let's do this. And again, let's take the lows out. This time I will take all of it out just in case. And now let's go to the FM operator. Again, let's take the 100 Hz out, maybe a bit more this time, just in case. And let's see the frequency we like. Maybe somewhere here, maybe make the bell a bit brighter. And again, just 2.5, maybe 3 dB. And now we have the glitch. The glitch I want to be also in the high territory, but maybe even more. Here I'm making already a big change, about 5 dB. And let's see here, maybe we can take a frequency out. Maybe somewhere here, so it's less muddy, less dark. Very nice, so we have the different tracks. Maybe we can add a nice click to the bass, to the kick drum. Let's see. Oh yeah. So again, just a bit, 2.5 dB, that's it. Okay, now what we will do, I will leave this in mono for now, and I will bypass the EQ so we can listen to how it was before and how it is now. Of course we can continue tweaking this for a long time, but let's leave it as it is now. And then I will turn it back to stereo, and then again we will bypass the EQ. So let's start with mono, and you can see here when I'm bypassing the EQ so we can listen to the changes. This is now the global bypass, it will bypass everything, so let's have a listen. So we can hear it's a bit brighter, it's a bit less dark. And again, this word muddy, I don't know what it means. I cannot explain muddy, but it's just it's dark and everything is on top of each other. Okay, so now let's turn it back to stereo. You ready? This is a nice part of the mixing stage. Oh yeah. And now again I will bypass the EQ. Very nice, so it's a bit brighter. It's a bit more open. Which is really cool. Okay, the next step, what we can also do is add some punchiness to the drums by compressing them. So let's first of all create a drums group. Again, in this mixer it's really easy. We have two groups. So all we have to do is take the drums, and here we can hit a plus and minus, or just hit the keys, and I will route them, the kick to number 1, hats, snare, and the snare 2 to group number 1, which is here, and this we will name also drums. So now we have all the drums going to this group, which is nice. And now we can compress only this group. So what we will do, we will use compressor from Bog Audio, which is a nice compressor, but again you can use whichever compressor you like. Also, if you have a host, you can use a different VST if you want, a VST compressor. And I will also use Unmeld, again MindMeld collection, and Meld, so we can bring just the group, the drums group, to the compressor. Let's send the insert out of the groups. You see we have groups and auxiliary to the groups out to the Unmeld. And from here we will go. Let's first of all change it in the right click menu. We can change this to group auxiliary on both Meld and Unmeld, and now we see group 1 is the first output. So from here group 1 will go to the compressor, and from the compressor it will go to Meld, and from Meld it will go to the group auxiliary input on the mixer. And now you can hear that the reverb is gone. You can see we have no more reverb. That's because we have to make the routing here as well. We have auxiliary 1. Auxiliary 1 is the reverb. So let's just send let's just send this back to Meld. And now we have the reverb back. And now we can compress just the drums. And what the compressor will do, it will compress the signal coming in that is reaching the threshold we will set by the amount we set with the ratio. So let's send the ratio of 4, set a ratio of 4, somewhere around 4. So whenever the signal goes above the threshold we will set in a second by 4 dB, it will let only 1 dB through and compress the signal. This will create a more tight sound, maybe, hopefully. So let's start taking the threshold down until we have a reduction. Here we can see the compression rate of about between 4 and 6 dB. So somewhere here. Oh yeah. Very nice. And now for the attack and the release, because we have drums, right? And I want the drums to stay snappy and will not lose the transient or attack time. I want them to stay snappy and punchy. So I will set a relatively long attack, so it will take time for the compressor to start working. So if I take it all the way down, let's just solo this, just so you can see what I mean. It will start working immediately, and the drums will lose their transient a bit, their attack, their punchiness. But if I set a longer attack time, it will take time for the compressor to start working. The same with the release. If I set a longer release, it will take time until the compressor will stop working, will stop compressing. So we need also quite a short release. Again, this is with the short release. This with the longer. So let's set quite a short release. Something like this. And let's see how it sounds like with everything else. Maybe take the threshold a bit more down. Yeah. Okay, another thing we can do is change the stereo width of the different channels. And I think, for example, we can change the width of the bass delay sound just so it's not going everywhere. So let's, again, I will solo this just so we can listen to the difference. In the right click menu, we have stereo width, now it's 100%. But I can make it a bit more centered, let's say about 60%, just so it's not everywhere. It's not taking too much space. Very nice. Okay, let's save again another slot on 8-face. And now we can A-B Now we can A/B everything what we've done and see how we started with and how it sounds now. So let's do this. I will bypass everything. This is how we started with. And this is what we have now. You can hear it's really clearer and more open. Let's do this again. Sound is brighter, and of course there is a lot more to tweak and to play with. It's a never-ending process, but there's a trick, and the trick is to make decisions and go with them. And anyway, I think that's enough for today. As you can see, the tools are there, everything we need. Thank you again, Patreons, for the idea and also for the support. And thank you, Meld, for the beautiful, beautiful tools. Again, there will be a link in the description to this patch. Feel free to download it and take a closer look. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe and hit the bell. And have a good one.